existence.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to this live stream where we're going to be discussing noise reduction and specifically focused on dialogue noise reduction for offline use, which means processing the files and, basically making new files on your timeline versus real-time noise reduction, meaning you just have it active on a track or a bus. So we're going to talk about kind of just the overall differences between those two and when you would pick one over the other. And specifically also depending on what software you're using, and kind of some of the options for different tools for both of those types of noise reduction. I am a little frazzled this morning because I've been trying to figure some software stuff out. So I need to set up the chat and everything. There we go. Let's see who we've got. We've got Alex drew first blood. We got Lake One Sound, Mike Wax, Tizio, and then Simon. Of course, Simon's always here. Thank you guys for joining. And I always try to give members a shout out. So we've got our members only Discord. If you join the channel, you get access to this. And got questions and answers. I might actually have a job opportunity to drop here pretty soon. And then if you want to support my channel, I don't have a Patreon or any of that malarkey. It's just my website, which I should have a link on the video description. I've got courses and plugins, and I'm working on new courses, new plugins. And this just helps me continue to do what I'm doing, which let's get right into it. So noise reduction. We've got so many different options for noise reduction. And I mean, gosh, take your pick. You've got Acon, you've got Cedar, you've got Hush, you've got Waves, Clarity. You have, help me out, guys, Clear. Give me some more because they're limitless options. Isotope has a bunch. Buzzfree, I'm probably not saying that right. It goes all the way back to X Noise back in the early Waves days when I used to have a Waves Gold plan, which I've dropped 10 years ago. So there's a lot of options for noise reduction, and it's kind of one of the most, I would say, overused things. Spectral layers, Tiziano, Accentize, yeah. There's just, you have so many options for that stuff. And Absentia, sort of, yeah, Absentia does a little bit of I'm talking specifically about broadband denoising. Let's just go into, I don't want to show you this, but I could show you this. Yeah, I'll show you this. In Pro Tools, I think I did a noise reduction shootout recently, so I've still got all those tracks available. And it's interesting, you start playing with noise reduction, and the first thing you'll notice is when you overdo something, you get a lot of artifacts. So that's one thing we're looking at, is we don't want artifacts in our audio. You want to have clean, but not so clean that you're starting to get space monkeys and digital warbles and stuff like that. Revive Pro, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, keep them coming in the comments. And so what I look for when I'm doing noise reduction is transparent noise reduction, where I can get a cleaned up result, but it doesn't sound overly processed. And in previous videos, we've gone through Adobe, podcast, the AI thing, and RX Dialogue Isolate, RX Voice Denoise, Cedar, Hush, Acon. I feel like we've done a pretty good job of showing what they sound like, but we haven't talked a ton about how you actually use them. And this is going to hopefully apply to not only audio pros, which I would say probably 70% of my audience is audio pros, but also it will apply to creators, which I'm trying to expand the educational aspect of my channel to include creators, because I feel like that's a huge, not market for like financial market, but it's a huge growth opportunity for quality sound, you know, because YouTube stuff just, it doesn't sound that great a lot of the times because people just skip over audio. And I think that is one of the easiest categories to improve content quality is audio. It's not like you want to buy a $30,000 camera and some Cook Primes, go for it. But if you just spend like $500 on improving your audio, it's going to feel like a better product than, you know, upgrading your camera to something that's 1% better. So that's kind of like why I try to frame things for pros, but also for creators, because creators, you've been slacking, you know, step your game up a little bit. So how we use the different types of noise reduction will depend on the turnaround time we have for a project. You know, if you have a quick turnaround time where you have to just get something sounding good in a short amount of time, the offline noise reduction tools aren't as, they're not as useful because you have to wait for the processing. And generally speaking, the higher the quality of the audio, the longer you wait for the processing. Hush Pro is a great example of that. It's probably the best sounding noise reduction tool on the market. Just in terms of like quality, you know, it's probably the best sounding one. So you have to wait forever. And if you have to blast through a 44-minute episode of like a reality show, or you have a festival mix, you have to mix an entire feature in 5 days from an AAF. Maybe you have time to wait, you know, overnight for that to process. But more likely you're going to just start mixing. You know, you're going to have tracks with plugins. So separate the noise reduction into offline and real time. And where you would pick the offline is where you're focused on very high quality. I want to wait for this. I have time to wait. I can do other things while I wait. Let me get, you know, the best quality offline noise reduction. And I know some mixers will take a dialogue edit. You know, they'll take, this is not a dialogue edit, but they'll take the entire dialogue edit for maybe a scene or a section or a reel. They'll do this. They'll go to Audio Suite, noise reduction. They'll go to Hush Mix or Hush Split and just, you know, turn the noise down a bit and the reverb, and individual files, clip by clip, render it, you know, go have a smoke, have a coffee, check on Reddit or Instagram and wait, because this is going to sound the best. But there's some downsides with this offline processing. And the number one downside you have with that, the number one is that you are locking yourself into a decision very early. So you're already deciding how much noise to reduce. And if you don't have the context of the other tracks, meaning your music or your backgrounds or your Foley, then you're stuck. You know, to go back, you have to basically undo your work and start over again. So that's kind of a negative of offline processing, is you're committing early to a decision and it doesn't leave you much flexibility in the mix. So I don't generally like to use offline processing on my mixes for that, you know, for like the whole shebang-a-bang. I'm not going to do a whole scene. But what I will do is if I have a noisy line, you know, let's say this one is super noisy, then I'll process this one clip and I'll leave the rest of the clips untouched. This kind of goes back to dialogue editing. If you have, let me see if I have like an actual dialogue edit in here somewhere. This is a massive like YouTube session that I use for basically everything. So it's got, yeah, it's got way too many tracks. If you, oh, what is this stuff? That's more processing, more plugin malarkey and messing around. Yeah, I guess I didn't save, let's see, stereo sound effects. Yeah, I guess I didn't save it. That's okay. But basically, if you take like my dialogue editing course, I talk about splitting things off. Like if you have one noisy shot, you know, split it off to a separate dialogue track. Oh, I didn't even get an S there. So that you can just process this kind of redheaded stepchild clip. You know, I don't necessarily need to do the whole scene, but this shot is super noisy. There's a truck going by or the air conditioner kicked on. So I'm just going to process this. And the rest of the scene is going to be very, you know, natural sounding. So I like to use offline processing very specifically, accurately, carefully, you know, kind of like probably a sniper or a marksman would pick targets. Like I'm just picking the worst offenders, single lines to offline process. And then the rest of the tracks, I prefer to do real-time noise reduction. So I like Cedar, and I have a Cedar affiliate link if you're interested in Cedar. They recently dropped their prices a crazy amount. Like it used to be thousands of dollars, now it's hundreds. It still sounds really good, but you have these newer, you know, these newer plugin manufacturers that you can run real time, and you can kind of, you know, duck the reverb and noise and use this as an insert. But be careful with the AI ones because they will play a different result each time you hit play because they use machine learning. So if you're punching into files, that doesn't work. If you want super consistent results, it doesn't really work. But we're starting to get some of these more advanced noise reduction tools that can function in real time. And the nice thing about this is if, let's say I mix all this dialogue and I think, you know what, it's too clean now. Well, you can just adjust the noise back up. So you're good, you know, then you can have some flexibility when you're mixing to mix against other tracks. And so I prefer relying more on real-time noise reduction. I usually use it on the tracks. For example, if I was going to do Cedar, I would have Cedar on like pretty much every track, but it'll start with no processing. It'll start either bypassed or with the faders all up. And why do I like to work this way? Because every clip is going to probably need a different setting. You know, there's going to be different noise thresholds, different frequency responses that I want to adjust on the noise reduction. So I don't want just a global bus noise reduction, although with a good dialogue edit, it's totally fine to do that. If the dialogue edit is super consistent, you can use either reassigned buses or just a single dialogue bus and use bus-based noise reduction because the edit is consistent. So it's a consistent noise floor, but you don't get the fine control of individual tracks. For example, a boom is going to be noisier than a lav most of the time. And you're going to likely want to adjust that individually. So that's kind of an overview of, you know, live, real-time versus offline noise reduction. I mean, if you guys want to take a listen to one, let me make sure I am like, okay, I'm on dim. And because I don't like to listen on headphones a lot of the time, I kind of like to listen on my monitors. And I have this plugin called Mute-O-Matic, which when I hit play will mute. Watch this. I'm talking. Oh my goodness, that was super loud. Yeah, so this will mute my mic when I hit play, which is kind of cool. Okay, so if you guys want to audition one, here's the options I have for offline noise reduction. Got Absentia DX, Acon, Cedar, DNS1, DNS2, ScreenVox, and VoiceX2 I didn't purchase. D-Room, DX Revive I didn't purchase, that's a demo. Hush Mix I got. All the RX stuff. And that's it. So this would be for offline, you know, process the audio files. So if you have a preference on one you want to hear, let me know. And I will, you know, process something. Let me make sure these are bypassed. And I probably want to mute since these are audio suited. We can go through these and the tracks are labeled Adobe. This is Adobe Enhance. This was from a blind shootout I did a couple weeks back. RX Dialogue Isolate, which I don't think, did I do this one? I did right here. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So these are already printed. We can take a listen to these if you want. I should probably mute like all these. Make sure the automation's off, just to kind of give you an idea of stuff I'm working on, because this is a slow time of the year for me, so I've got time to work on stuff. I don't need to talk about that, don't need to talk about that, don't need to talk about that. I'm kind of working on auto level a little bit in the background, but I am, yeah, I could show you guys the outline for my mix course. I've started working on my mix course, and I don't want to get like too off topic here, but here's kind of an outline for the mixing course that I'm working on. It's going to be 9 modules long, kind of similar to the dialogue one. And I feel like it's going to be pretty long. Like it's probably going to be closer to 10 hours of video stuff. So it's going to take me at least the rest of this month to finish. But people have been asking for the mix course. They go through the dialogue editing course, which is here. They go through this, or they go through this and then they go through this, or they go through this and they go through this, and then they're like, hey, where's the mix course? It's like, well, sorry, I'm still working. So, you know, now I'm not working on really any projects. So I've actually have time to dedicate to this. So yeah, this is something I'm working on some other stuff in the background that I can't talk about. And, I'm not taking it easy. I'm going ham. I'm going full force on, you know, with this dead January, February that I always have every year. I'm actually using it to try and make some stuff. We got some questions here. Great. Let's get to these. Greg Palmer, do you have a target for noise reduction? Getting broadband noise down to a specific dB level. Excellent question. People ask these types of questions all the time, and it's good. So I don't have a dB level in mind when I'm reducing noise. I have a sound in my mind of what it should sound like, and that's called audiation. It's where you can visualize with your brain what it sounds like. So it's not visualize, it's audiate. And it's really, I think it's one of those things people have or they don't have. I do think you can develop it, but it's kind of like that inner monologue. I know online there's been discussions about people that have the inner monologue, or they can visualize like an apple in their brain, and some people can't, like they literally have to see a picture of it. I think audiation is kind of the same way, where either you can hear the future of what it's supposed to sound like, or you can't, and you can only react to things. Both of them are fine. But for noise reduction, I know what it's supposed to sound like, and it's not squeaky clean. It's not zero noise. It's like a certain amount of noise that fits the location, the recording level, the ambience of the scene, the emotion of the scene. Some scenes need to be super quiet, like you can hear a pin drop. And so on those, you spend a lot of time working the noise reduction tools to get a clean result. Other scenes, they're, you know, out on a street in New York City and there's cars going by. I'm cool with no noise reduction. That's how that location sounds. So it's totally dependent on the specific details of the location. It's in other words, it's very subjective. It's not objective. It's not like I want minus 60 dB of noise. No, it totally depends on everything. So, and that's where the experience comes into play. Another question here from Alex. I'm curious about the new Acon digital extract dialogue. It is really good. I helped them a little bit with beta testing, and they were super responsive to input from all the testers, and it's really good. I would say it's a step up from their first one, and the addition of the reverb slider is really nice. So it's good. Another question, does Cedar DNS create artifacts? It creates an interesting kind of artifact, Adam. Most broadband noise reducers will create space monkeys, which are these little warbly background ghost sounds inside the noise, like, or inside the noise part of the signal. So it's trying to pull the voice out of the noise, and in trying to pull the voice out of the noise, it actually pulls things out of the noise that are not voice, and they end up sounding like these weird hallucinations, you know, to put it in like AI terms. So cedar doesn't do that. It does create feathering around where the gate is opening and closing, or expander, because cedar is basically a really advanced multiband expander. And so let's just listen to what that sounds like. I'll push it too far, make sure this is soloed, and I'm going to make sure when I hit play you guys can hear this. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F's, S. Yeah, you guys can hear that. All right, let's bypass. I'm going to bump this cedar setting to where it's like doing way too much. So kids, do not do this. This is not how you use cedar. Here too, maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F's, S's, H. Here too, maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F. So you can hear what's happening is in the gaps in between the words, you know, like here and here, the cedar is clamping, and then once the voice comes in, cedar is opening. So you can hear the expansion start to work. So that's the type of artifacts that cedar creates. To me, that's a more musical option versus the Space Monkeys, the true, you know, voice in the noise artifacts that the other ones create. And it's, you know, it's when you play it with a full mix of music and backgrounds and Foley and effects, you tend to not notice that as much as you do the Space Monkey effect. Good question. Nalanka. Oh, somebody asked earlier how to get to the Discord. You have to join as a channel member, which on the videos or live streams, there should be a join button, but it's not available in every country. So if it's not available in your country, I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so let's see. Do you use one going into another? I do. My favorite combo is probably once I get to the point in the mix where I'm ready to do noise reduction. I like to do kind of what I said earlier, and that's to use Audio Suite. Like, let's say I'm going to do Hush Mix here. I'll use Audio Suite just a bit, like 6, you know, dB, and process. And this will get out some of the noise. And then I'll use cedar to get the rest out. Let's bypass, and then I'll just show you what cedar should sound like, which keep the faders on cedar between -3 and 0. So it's bypassed right now. Here's just the Hush Mix output. Change in there too. Maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F's, S's, H, SH change in there too. Maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F's, S's, H, SH change in there too. Maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sounds, the F's, S's, H, SH change in there too. Maybe we'll test that. Air hisses can be really hard because all the sibilant sound. So I like to just shave off a bit with each. Let's say this was a really noisy angle and I had to, or I chose, I don't have to do anything. I chose to use Hush to lower the noise and reverb because they're linked automatically down, you know, 6 dB. Then I'll use cedar as an insert to just take off another 2 or 3 dB. And what this allows me to do is dial in the noise reduction so that I have a baseline with Hush, but then I have some flexibility with cedar. In case the director says, you know, I want this cleaner, I can adjust the thresholds and the level. Or if I want to leave it more raw because I'm losing clarity, then I can bypass it. Great question. How do you treat Foley or practical effects different from dialogue for noise reduction? Good question, Greg. Generally speaking, on Foley or PFX, so let's separate them out. Foley is recorded after, you know, the show's edited, and then people go into a studio and have an awesome time with props and shoes and surfaces, and they record all the footsteps and prop sounds, cloth, hand pats, all that stuff. That's a controlled environment, so normally speaking, the Foley is pretty clean. I have run into, you know, like the super low budget Foley where there's computer fans and traffic rumble and HVAC rumble. So I'll treat that with audio suite, because it's not going to be every sound. You know, it's going to be like the low, quiet sounds that have the higher noise floor, maybe a cloth or a delicate prop. I'll process a little bit with Cedar, because Cedar isn't dialogue specific. It's just a noise reduction tool. It's not a dialogue noise reduction tool, although it's perfect for dialogue. Cedar doesn't look for dialogue. It's just looking at the noise. So I'll spot by spot, clip by clip process just the clips that need it. But generally Foley's pretty clean. PFX, on the other hand, are basically dialogue tracks that are no dialogue. You know, they're recorded on set. I will process them the same way. In fact, my template, which you can get on my website, the PFX bus has the same bus processing as the dialogue bus, and the PFX tracks have the same processing as the dialogue tracks. So if I wanted to, let's just pretend this is a PFX track. If, you know, I found a PFX, like let's say this is a doorbell or something. If I do this, if I move it to the PFX, all the processing stays with it. So it's the exact same processing on the dialogue and PFX tracks. So great question, and really worth diving into a little bit. Nalaka says, so the Cedar doesn't have that effect that gates have when they open the noise. So Cedar does have that, but it's frequency dependent, so it's not as obvious. It's not the entire broadband frequency spectrum, because each band has its own gain setting. And you can even, this is set to full right now, but you can even go just lows, just mids, just highs, or lows and mids, mids and highs, or full. And I've been using this since like 2007, I think. So this, or maybe it's probably later. That's probably like 2008 or 9. This is great. I mean, Cedar has been around for so long. I think since like the late 90s. It's used on, or up till recently, used on all the big budget movies. It has that really classic Hollywood sound. And like I said, it's gone from $5,000 to like $300. So they were nice enough to give me an affiliate link. And it's a product I believe in. I spent the thousands when, you know, back before they did the price drop, and it made me back my money in a week because I was able to take on, you know, bigger budget mixes because of this. Simon is saying that that's exactly what he does with AI a little bit, and then Cedar. What are your thoughts on Isotope RX denoise? I don't really like it. Yeah, I'm not a super fan. Too many artifacts with that. The voice denoise is okay, but it does have artifacts as well. Then we got Jean says hi. Nalanka, gotcha. I have VoiceX. I wonder if I need DNS1. I would say if you have VoiceX, you probably don't need DNS1. I don't think you need both, but they kind of sound a little different, and VoiceX is definitely more in the AI-ish, you know, one knob type of adjustment, and Cedar is very detailed. Cedar also, I think VoiceX is pretty low latency, but Cedar is like 0 latency. It's a little old school, but it's a great, and you can see I still have the old faders. I haven't updated this plugin in forever, and I'm on Mac OS Tahoe 26.2, and it still runs great. This has been like probably the most stable plugin I've bought, so totally worth the investment I made in it early in my career. I do have to cut the stream short in probably like 15 minutes because I have a meeting at 9. So if you guys have, you know, questions about anything you want to hear, or any technical questions, now's the time, because in 15 minutes I'm signing off. And this wasn't as much of a technical, you know, let's listen to a bunch of plugins. We've done that. This is more of a discussion on real time versus offline. So if we can sort of keep it in that realm, great, but if not, it's totally fine. Simon is telling us that VoiceX is around 4,000 samples of delay. Let's look at what, yeah, I mean, here on this track, I've got 39. And then let's compare that. This would be maybe something good to look at. We can look at what happens when, let's run dialogue isolate as an insert. Can I even do that? Yep, I can. Each one of these to our... Oh, no, it's 0. It's 0. Yeah, 0 on the OG, and now it's 2,000 samples. Let's just make sure we're doing something. 2,000 samples for dialogue isolate. Let's do voice denoise. This is a fairly beefy computer. So it's like a Mac M2 Ultra or something like that. It's a Mac Studio. We already got, let's put Cedar where it actually needs to go. We got Hush, which Hush cannot run as an insert. Not yet. Someday it will. And then we'll do Acon. This is probably still like a couple versions back on the Acon, so don't take this as like a, this is what, okay, so this gives us some idea though. So the Acon is 4,600 samples. The RX dialogue isolate is 2,000 samples. RX voice denoise is 0. Cedar is 0. What is your process on over reverberated dialogue? The Acon algorithm is really good. Another algorithm that's really good is in D-Room Pro. This is by Accentize. I like their plugins. They're really, I like the interface, and D-Room Pro 2 and Chameleon Surround are great. Chameleon is a reverb which samples reverb and applies it, and it's so cool to be able to sample a reverb from dialogue and apply it to Foley or ADR. So let's see what D-Room Pro is giving us. 5,000 samples. So anything over, you know, like 100 samples, I'm gonna use as an offline process. Really, I want 0. I want 0. I want no latency, no sample delay at all. So yeah. I'm going to clean this up because I like clean sessions. Bam. Now our compensation is back where it needs to be. So we're good there. Yeah, what else can I talk about with offline versus real time? We've been in Pro Tools this whole time. I have found DaVinci to be more finicky when it comes to plugin handling. I mean, it's first and foremost a video editing and color correcting software, and they're kind of adding on Fusion and Fairlight. So DaVinci and Premiere get a little cranky when you start adding a bunch of real-time plugins. They can also get cranky with clip-based plugins as effects. So yeah. Let's see. This is a little bit off topic, but I'm totally fine with that. I have a small question, and I'd like to ask you if you have the knowledge. Do we achieve true 32-bit audio only if the sound card directly supports 32-bit? If so, does Windows support it? I don't have the knowledge to directly answer that, but I do know that, you know, Mac supports it. Certain interfaces support 32-bit. A lot of them actually process audio in a 32-bit floating point domain, and DAWs, like Pro Tools, the summing mixer and all the track mixers and stuff are 32-bit as well. So the architecture is there. I just don't know if Windows supports it. Good question. Sorry, I can't solidly answer it for you. Let's see what I've talked about, different plugins and kind of we didn't really listen to too many examples, which is kind of okay, but let's go ahead and do that. We might as well, right? So this hiss example is really nice because it's Pro Multiband Dynamics. What did I do for this one? Oh, you know what? Yeah. I used a multiband gate. We didn't really talk about that, but you can use a multiband gate or expander. The Pro MB that comes with Pro Tools is really good for this. You can actually use it in flip mode to suppress noise, which gets you sort of a free or poor man cedar. You can also use if you have the Fab Filter, I've got a preset here that I've made. but I think they might have, yeah, expanded and sibilance controlled. It's based on this. And you can even do single vocal gating, which is just single band, but it's nice to split the frequencies because you can do more low or more high or more mid. And with FabFilter, you can add a bunch. Is there any easy way to find a pre-audio suited region in the regions bin if you've overprocessed it? Perfect. Great. Gold star for you. A+. Great question. This is something I've talked about a little bit. And in my dialogue editing bootcamp, you can check out this workflow in a real dialogue edit. So what happens if you go too far with offline processing and you need to go back? What's really cool, you know, like this engine example here has been processed with all these different noise reduction tools. But let's say I don't have these. You know, these are gone. I've only processed this. Actually, I need to grab one of the process. I'll just do it. It's fine. So engine example, this is a raw audio. Let's go here. Let's just make this sound really amateur. We're going to use dialogue isolate, and we're going to do this like true amateurs and turn the noise way down, and we're going to render this, and it's going to do it. Bam. Okay, let's listen to this. It's going to sound great. This is a tractor diesel engine playing back in Soundly. Tractor diesel engine. I actually drive a diesel. Cool. Sounds like 80% of the YouTube videos out there, but I don't like that. I want to go back. Help me, mama. Help me. I went too far with this. Watch this. Right click. Enable field recorder guide track. You can see I've already done this because I do this with a lot of dialogue edits. So turn on field recorder guide track. Okay. Now if I right click the file and go matching field recorder channels, I can go as far back as I want. Let me go back to the original. This is a tractor diesel engine playing back in Soundly. Tractor diesel engine. Easy. I'm going to even turn off the DNS1, which I mistakenly had on. This is a tractor diesel engine playing back in Soundly. Tractor diesel engine. I actually drive a diesel pickup truck, but it's cold. I don't really want to be outside, so Sound Library is saving my butt. Make sure don't forget to have some V's and F's, FF. So that's the way I like to do it. Field recorder guide track enabled on my edit tracks. And then I can right click field recorder channels and I can go to any version I have of this. Even like, you know, I've got DNS, I've got Hush Mix. Actually drive a diesel pickup truck. Which is probably one of the, you know, that's to me the best quality sounding one. This trick actually was shared with me from a mixer, Steven, who I've worked with through Formosa in Hollywood. And great mixer, really laid back guy, and super knowledgeable, super willing to share tips and techniques. I think I had to conform one of his mix sessions for a dialogue edit or something like that. Or he sent me his template to cut into. And I noticed all his dialogue tracks had field recorder guide track enabled, and I was like, Steven, what's going on here? Why do you have these all enabled? Doesn't that, like, you know? And he's like, for processing, because as long as the originals are on the X tracks or somewhere in the session, all he has to do is right click, and he's got basically an undo list here, which is really nice. Now I will say that Fairlight in DaVinci has a much better version of that called layered audio editing, which Pro Tools should end up having at some point, because all you do in DaVinci is turn on layered audio editing and show audio layers, and you've got basically in line, it's almost like playlists of all the things you've done to the audio, you know, external audio process. So it's really nice to be able to enable and disable layers without this hokey workaround. But, you know, that's what we have to work with in Pro Tools. Working in DaVinci, passing the project back to the editor. How do you burn in the plugins that they don't have? Okay, good question. If you're sending this back to DaVinci, you're probably gonna want to commit commit the track. So you'd right click and you'd click commit, and this will give you a bunch of print tracks that have all the automation and everything. I don't know why you'd want to go back to DaVinci, because you're going from a you know, fairly basic audio editing engine to Pro Tools, which is just audio, perfect for it. And then back to the mediocre one. But if you had to, I would freeze all your tracks. So all the plugins and everything are done. And then it'll give them a bunch of audio files without the edits. But I mean, yeah. I'm curious why you'd go back to Fairlight. Once you get it out, you know, keep it out. But there's different workflows, I guess. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes left. Anything else? Any other questions you guys have? Let me just go back through. And sorry, Speedfinity, I'm sorry I didn't know the answer for that. I'm really a Mac. I'm a Mac. I'm not a PC. I have a PC. I built PCs, but I use Mac all the time, so it's just kind of a knowledge gray zone for me. MCCKS, I don't know how to pronounce that. McKicks. Bought myself the boot camp to get stuck in job for my current job finishes. That's great. Let me know what you think of it. I spent a lot of time on it. I'm spending a lot of time on the mix course as well. So I want to really focus on quality over quantity. But you know, every purchase I get, like, I get notifications for them and it's like, yes, thank you so much. Because with work being so slow, this is basically helping me, you know, it's helping me put food on the table for my family. So thank you guys for subscribing and joining the channel and buying stuff and just all the, I hate to get mushy, but all the love. It's really helping me, you know, not just like kind of forge a little bit of a new path with focusing on YouTube, focusing on products, you know, plugins and coding and stuff. But also just mentally, this is always the toughest time of the year. You know, you rush to get everything done before Christmas, and then January, February, it's like there's nothing going on. And even when I was in LA, it was like that. Like January and February for posts are just, ugh. Like you have to make it through. And what's interesting is I'm finding that's true for other businesses too. Construction, food, service. Like January is slow. February picks up a tiny bit, and then spring, everything comes back. So yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any other questions I'd like to cover. Yeah, I do need some more testers for auto level. I guess I could show you guys that plugin I'm working on. This is a utility plugin, I guess you'd call it. And I've got a build of it. It's not quite there yet. But it's an automatic leveler. And Simon has been super helpful. So Simon, thank you so much. I don't know how to say thank you in French. Is it s'il vous plaît? No, I think that's if you please. Tell me how to say thank you in French. I'm sure my mom would kill me if she found out I didn't know it because she speaks French. But I appreciate Simon's help, and a couple other people have helped me test this plugin out. This is like, basically you feed it your mix and it changes the output to your desired LUFS level. And Simon was using it, I believe, for leveling dialogue tracks, which is not, like, I didn't think about that use when I made this. So it's a little maybe too slow to respond, and I wanted it to be usable for real time. So if you're interested in helping me test this out, if you're a channel member, there's an installer on the Discord in the plugin dev tab. But at this point, I just need more bodies on it. So email me, go to my website, email me, say, hey, I want to help you test this. I'll send you an installer. It's PC and Mac, Pro Tools and other, it's AU, AAX, and VST3. Basically, feed it anything within a certain range, like between -40 to 0 dB, and it'll automatically adjust the level up to meet your spec. So it's really meant for content creators and making like web mixes of other content. And my goal with this was to make it transparent enough to not squash the dynamics, really not compress things, just gain ride things over a certain time period. So it's maybe good for batch processing VO lines, you know, and maybe production sound, but really meant for living on a mix bus. And it's just for lazy people like me, where I don't want to, on my YouTube stuff, I don't want to be tweaking, automation levels and stuff. I just want to throw stuff on the timeline and print it because it's YouTube. I'll spend time on the courses and developing tools because the content should just be, pretty pain-free to me. Can it be used real time? Yes, it's meant to be used real time. And it works pretty well. I mean, I can just show you. This is a tractor diesel engine playing back in Soundly. Tractor diesel engine. I actually drive a diesel pickup truck, but it's cold. I don't really want to be outside, so Sound Library is saving my butt. Make sure, don't forget to have some V's and F's. FFSS. Sally sold seashells down by the diesel. Yeah, so it works it's really meant for real-time use. And I think Simon tested it with Audio Suite, and it seemed to work good for, like, setting clip gain on stuff. It doesn't set clip gain, but the idea of it setting the volume on clips as an Audio Suite. Maybe I should just do that. I've got just a couple minutes left here. Let's do this. Let's render that. So there you go. It does have a safety limiter built in because when you boost stuff to -14, some of the peaks are going to go over. So it does have a safety limiter just to keep it from clipping. But it's been fun, like, making something that's a little more utilitarian and a little less, like, floofy. Like auto comp, I'm super proud of. It's the best plugin I've ever made. And it's selling pretty well. People are starting to catch on. But this is more of like a creator focused, or, if you have a 5.1 mix or a stereo mix that's for broadcast and you don't want to do a separate web mix, throw this on an aux and print, and it should transparently bring the level up because it's not a compressor. So if you're interested in helping me test this, great. I'm not to the point of abandoning it or making it freeware yet, but there's another project I would really like to focus on because I feel like it's got legs. So I'm just going to kind of get this to where it's good enough and then put it out for real cheap, 10, 20 bucks. And, kind of, or maybe a bundle. Maybe if you buy something, I'll throw it in for free. I'm not really sure yet. Could you repeat how to take part in the test? You'll want to join the channel as a member, which is the join button on YouTube. If you can't do that, totally fine. Just email me on my website. Once you join as a member, go down to the plugin dev, and I've got some links for, let's see, right here. I re-updated the Mac installer because there was like a permissions issue on one OS, so that should be all fixed. But you can just ask me on here if you join the channel as a member, and I'll hook you up. So I appreciate you guys helping me out with that, and thank you for your patience on all my rambling on my streams. I've got a whole bunch of edited content coming out. I'm really going hard on trying to plan recorded videos and edited videos out to where it hits the mark. If you have any input on that or you want to see other topics covered, please let me know in a comment. But I'm scheduled out to like end of January with edited videos. They'll be posting on Thursday for non-members at 8 a.m. Members, I try to give you guys first, like basically whenever I'm done editing, you guys get to see it. So yeah, I'm, committing to YouTube. I'm saying I feel like I can follow this down the rabbit hole a little bit, especially when work is slow, but I am still working kind of off and on movies. So just be patient with me. Thank you guys for the support. And big thank you to all the channel members. I did want to, just before I sign off, let me go. There was specifically some people I wanted to highlight just because they were, where is it? Viewer posts, no, analytics. There's like a tab on here where it shows you your your people, like the people that are, you know, like maybe it's audience, channels that your audience watches. It was like the tab with somebody that's better with YouTube will probably be able to be like, oh yeah, go here. It's like the thing where it says all the people that have commented the most, and I just wanted to like bump those people because I forget who. I know Alex was one of them. He's always on here. Bill Shup, I think, was another one, and maybe it was just on my phone that I had it. But yeah. Anyways, sorry about that. I was trying to find it, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who subscribes and likes, and especially channel members. Our channel membership has grown pretty big. Like it's a couple hundred people now, and it's great. I check the Discord every day, and it's really because of the channel members that this channel has survived. It's really the reason I'm not out swinging a hammer on a roof somewhere. So thank you guys for saving my hands and my back. And I'm, you know, paying it back by doubling down on content and tool creation. That's going to help you guys do better with audio post. It's hopefully will help some creators get to the level where they can start to think about audio post and do better on their audio for videos. So like I said, any ideas you have for content, shoot it my way. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Till then, take care.